My man.
Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. Way out east here in Tucson.
Way out east.
With a legendary cat, great drummer who I've had a chance to see at a jam session at Hush, but does his local lessons here. Austin Keys, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
How are you doing today, Jake?
Better now, man. That was beautiful.
Thank you, brother, for sure. Just noodling around a little bit, man.
You know, I wanted to ask you, I interviewed this great drummer, Alex Klein, the brother of Nels Klein.
Okay.
An incredible percussionist. And he went to a clinic in the Valley in California in like 76.
Way before my time.
Shelly Mann was there.
Yeah.
And Shelly was like, everybody at that time was focused on what does it take to get into the studio, getting your studio chops together. You know, that at that time, the studios were still thriving.
No, yeah, it was a lot of like Steely Dan type cast that are trying to just reach out for the best, the Jeff Porcaros, the dudes that they need to get in that are just...
These are even like young. The point is that there was still a career, and these were just young cats. And
Yeah.
Shelly got up with a modified kit. It might have been just a like three-piece kit, and he's like, I'm going to teach you guys how to swing a big band with just these three things. And he's, Alex said that his ride cymbal beat was so pulsating that he'd already had some life-changing experiences in music, but that was seminal. And Shelly was not interested in anything related to slick or chops or that kind of stuff. And I wanted to ask you, how did you develop a cymbal character? Where it's like...
It's a funny story, actually.
Go ahead.
So, right out of high school, I had done all 4 years jazz band in high school, and I got my teacher Fred Hayes had
legend.
Yeah, he put in the word for me to start playing with Jazzworks at the U of A because I wasn't going to the U of A, but he wanted me to get into their Jazzworks program. And Bryce Winston was my conductor.
Another legend.
The dude hated the way I played the ride, man. Like from day one, I couldn't.
Well, that's a personal thing.
But he was like whiplash about it, man.
So talk about that.
So
what was he not digging?
I would just be starting 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. The way you play the ride, Austin, I can't stand it, man. Just I don't know how to make it better, but I can't. Get off the kid. Somebody else get
him off.
100%. I'd be like, Bryce, you're not giving me any way to make it better. Right. I just cannot stand the way you play the ride. And it was something that I'm not sure if he had a bone to pick, but it ended up becoming a thing between us. It ended up kind of turning me off for a while from the jazz.
So you were. I just want to be clear, because do you think at the end of the day was it a?
I don't think it was actually about my ride playing. I think it was about my confidence, and he just wanted to take me down a peg, man.
Right. He thought he's like, this cat's an imposter. He's coming in from the outside.
Something like that. Yeah. Something like that. I came in with my baby blue station wagon and my hat bag and stuff. He's like, this kid's not a jazz.
Well, if it makes you feel any better about Bryce, and I don't mean dogging on Bryce, because he's a fucking badass.
He's the man.
But he told me to turn my camera off like a few years ago. He didn't know it was Jake Feinberg.
Okay.
Recording him, and so he gets bristled.
He does get he's bristled. He's a great word for it.
And like most avant-garde, most artists,
he's amazing. I have nothing bad to say about the man's playing.
Was it regardless of the nature of his angst? Was it a learning experience for you to work on?
Absolutely. I think about it to this day.
So talk about what
I think about it to this day.
That's so fucking cool.
But the thing is, my playing, I'm not really, I've never been really influenced by, I am influenced by the pros, but I have, there's Dennis Chambers right here. We got Jimmy Cobb up here.
Those Jimmy's birthday just recently. Rest in peace. I interviewed Jimmy, yeah.
My mom was a killer drummer. So that we haven't really got into. So my mom was a killer drummer. And when she passed away, when I was 13, I was lost, man. And her teacher came up to me, Fred Hayes, was like, I don't know what I can do for you, kid, but if you ever want to play drums, if you show up, I got you for life, man. I took lessons with him for over a decade. And
that's a beautiful story.
So I've always wanted to play. It's not that I wanted to play like Dennis. It's not that I wanted to play like Elvin Jones. I wanted to play like Fred Hayes. I wanted to play like Ralph Gilmore, and I wanted to play like Mark Loeb. I wanted to play all the locals that my mom had infinite respect for. So I've always just been trying to play like Fred Hayes, man.
Well, for the wider audience that will tune in on this, like Fred Hayes I've seen him in psych rock settings with Alvin Blaine.
He's a Tucson staple, yeah.
I mean, but he'll also just play burning classic jazz.
He's a deep jazzer. I think he was one of the first drummers inducted into the Tucson Jazz Society.
How would you describe his time feel?
Flawless. Yeah, it's effortless. It's that he does stuff that like looks like it's so much work, and when I play it, it's so much work. He just does it with this dumb look on his face that just drives me insane. What do you talk to
your students about as it relates to using your physicality in the most efficient way? Where it's like he has some interesting gifts, as my other dear friend Austin Beatty, whose birthday it is today.
Nice. Happy birthday, Austin.
Yeah, Austin. I mean, incredible drummer, and makes it doesn't look like he's doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
And it's swinging really hard. How do you tell your students to use their soul and physicality without being spastic?
Interesting. I'd say, well, I'm a big reader. Like, as you see on the board, like I really, I tell my students a lot that if you can't read it, you can't play it. So if you have a confident enough count, and you can match your notes to the count, you can read it. So if you lock it in, you do it over and over and over again until it's consistent. I don't care how fast it is. If you can play it real slow and lock it in, then you're able to bring your own element to it. It's just how you hit the snare, how you hit the hi-hat, where you hit the hi-hat. I tell these kids to think about each part of the drums as its own instrument. It's not one instrument. This is its own instrument.
Absolutely.
This is its own instrument. And you have to think about all the different ways to play it.
Grab
my water real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some would say that, like, if you can sing it, you can play it.
That's another one too. Yeah.
Okay, and it's like, to me, there is this thing going on now. And you push back if you want to, but
absolutely.
Fred Hayes' generation, Pete LaRocca, Tony Williams, Max Roach, Mickey Roker, Jimmy Cobb. They all had a character symbol on their ride.
Yes.
And it made them distinctive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
I remember you talking about that with Jimmy. I watched your Jimmy Cobb interview. It was a great interview.
And
as soon as you brought up the meters, the whole conversation changed, brother.
that dude he grew up in the ghettos of DC.
Yeah, man. As soon as you're like, yeah, man, when I was touring with the meters, he goes, "You say you were touring with the meters?" I saw the whole thing change, man. It was awesome.
I appreciate you, man. But the truth is that do you feel that younger cats, because I'm 46, you're younger than me, it's like the older generations learned to hear the music before they learned to read it, okay? And what I mean by that is, like, it was an oral tradition. When you think of the jazz, I'm talking jazz and blues.
Yeah.
But no, I want to be clear. A lot of the older cats that I've interviewed, Gary Bars, those cats, when they get students at Oberlin or Berkeley, obviously they're fucking badasses.
Yeah, those are,
there's outliers. But most kids today, their ears are locked because they're reading the music. They're learning to read the music before they're learning to hear it. So the ears get locked. I want you to talk about the ears. How big are the ears of the kids? Because, dude, I grew up in an analog world for 20 years.
So did I.
Exactly.
I'm over here trying to.
Think kids' ears today,
to make it work. Kids' ears today are nothing like they were when we were
How has it changed?
Because I would have to like these. Yeah. So most of my kids are playing on these electronic kits, which are awesome. But I updated them with the at least real hi-hats. And
now they are getting off of a synthetic feel.
Yeah, well, except for the hi-hats, like, 'cause these are actually they're really intuitive.
Sure.
But it's that there isn't a distinctive ride or crash symbol or crash tension, which changes a will So
how is that going to change the groove? The line is going to change the groove.
100%, and it makes it. The only reason I have this kit set up is because I have kids that will play songs on the electronic kit. I'm like, all right, well now let's try to play it on the real kit. It doesn't compute the same way at all. So they play it and they're like, hey, this doesn't sound the same as it just sounded on my electronic kit, man. I'm like, because there's a lot more emotion that has to go on with acoustic drums, with the sound of acoustics, and having to actually, play for the room. You're not just hitting the drums. You're having to play for however acoustic every room you're in is. The different.
If you didn't set up the cymbal and the hi-hat,
the first 6 months I didn't have the real hi-hats.
But they wouldn't have, if that wasn't here, if they were just doing the trad electronic set, they would not have the muscle memory to know how to play any kind of rhythm on these.
The hi-hat. So like the first 6 months, because I still have the fake hi-hat over here. The first 6 months, they were playing on that guy.
Wow.
And it just wasn't, it just wasn't working out, and it wasn't computing. And then as soon as I brought the real hi-hats, all of a sudden, 8 or 9 students are like, so for Christmas, we're getting real hi-hats. Because every time I go home, it's not even kind of the same.
Exactly.
It's not, yeah. And,
what is the difference?
Well, with a hi-hat,
I mean, from a tonal sense.
It's that these are either open or closed, the electric ones. It's either full open, full closed. There's no ambience. You're not able to build it up. You're not able to bring it down. You're not able to sizzle it. It's either open, closed, and there's a lot of cool different tones in there, but you're not able to just really, or like,
right.
you go from the bell to the outside. So like, either way, it's just the same thing on those ones. Just no
the
matter what,
modulation is missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, so then they try to, make it compute. They're playing on the side of it. I'm like, hey, let's try to finesse on the top a little bit, or, play a little bit close to the bell, or 2 on the side, 1 on the bell. So there's so much more finesse possible. And
That's the right
these
word.
Are also 13s. 13-inch hi-hats are particularly my favorite. 14s are just they're a little bit overbearing. But you get a nice jazzy 13, man. I love some 13-inch hi-hats.
I mean, do you feel though my daughters have been exposed to a lot of records.
Absolutely imagine.
All right,
man.
and like their ears are wide open.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Good,
most
man.
cats
Good deal.
have had quantized beats crushed into their ears.
Oh yeah.
For better or for worse, for the last 20 years, if you were born in this century, and can they feel the authenticity of the when you play certain hits on the bell, or can they feel that shit?
When I play the actual drum kit, the kids walk out with a completely different look on their face. Like this warm, like I could actually do this look on their face. I try to incorporate it as many times as I can, because when I teach them on this, they'll play through an entire, like I had a student that was just in here, he played through Bruno Mars' Uptown Funk. He did every note. It was killer on this. But as soon as you just start playing on the regular kit, it's a completely different feel, because it's just a heavy 4 on the 4, boom, bop, boom, bop, boom, bop. If you're playing, you can make that sound so bad on a regular kit. You can go from. No one wants to hear that.
No.
Still kind of heavy. Then you like, Snare super out of tune. But yeah, there's different ways to make it so it's not just hitting the drums. You're playing the drums. You're becoming a drummer. It's not just something that you're just smashing with 2 pieces of wood.
And Hayes never had any electronic.
Never ever. And he had Pearl.
Yeah, no, the man
he'd have the
acoustic.
cheapest drum kit ever when set up in the room, and they would sound immaculate.
Exactly.
Every time.
Bill Jackson, the great vibes player, Emil Richards, my dear uncle, rest in peace, soul brother. But
soul brother.
When he was coming up, he said that Milt in the 50s had the saddest looking vibes he'd ever seen, and then the sound that's from the soul.
Yeah.
Are you able to talk to them in a philosophical way about the primordial gut, getting into I know your mom knew that.
I was about to say that's kind of the first lesson. I go, hey guys, check it out. I was going to be lost in the world, and a drummer reached out and saved my life, and he taught me how to act, taught me how to hold my sticks, taught me how to not talk when people were playing, taught me how to listen, taught me how to be a human being. And if they're interested, I'm here to do the same thing. I'll teach them how to act. I'll teach them how to play with a band. I'll teach them how to be with people. And it's not just this isn't just something I do. This it's absolutely
essential.
It's my defining character. This is really what saved my life when I was completely. I was 13, no dad, ward of the state. I was going to be in jail or dead, man. I had some dude reach out like, hey man, if you're interested in this, your mom was a great drummer, and also my mom being a great drummer was another part of it. She took lessons with Fred for a decade. So this is her ride. This is her snare drum.
Her soul is definitely here.
Her soul is everywhere, man. Yeah, absolutely. She was awesome. She was the best.
No, I mean, how many of your students, like when you were with taking lessons with Fred. Were you listening to music communally with your friends? Were you in bands?
I was in jazz band, so that was 5 days a week, and it was my favorite thing in the world. And then I was also in a band playing at Scrappy's and the living room and all those early scene venues downtown. Our band was called Paul Revere, and
wow.
Yeah, we were awesome. We played everywhere. And then my best friend and guitar player messed around with opiates and died immediately. Like messed around with it, got into it, was dead, man.
Right. No,
like,
you just.
Right. And it's like I put in 15 years with this dude, man. We were playing three gigs every weekend. All of a sudden, it was like, hey, man, that was just me, bro. So
no,
yeah.
I appreciate your. This is. Do you feel that through it all? I mean, the only times that I've grown in my life has been through adversity.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
And I just wanted you to talk about perseverance, and ultimately, you can't really You cannot. I don't know what these cats that are coming to you, if they're trying to play the perfect Bruno Mars drum beat, or if they actually have aspirations or even the understanding that it's only about the conversation, like you talked about.
That's what's amazing about drum lessons. Well, I started this 2.5 years ago. I've given over 2,500 lessons now.
Awesome.
And I have students from age 6 to 66 right now. And either they show up and they just want to hold the sticks, or they show up and they've taken lessons for years and they want to be able to lock back in and feel better about it. Actually, they can play, but they're not feeling it anymore. They're not feeling like they're part of it anymore. I'm able to bring that excitement back to a lot of players that I just had this.
You're fired up.
Yeah, well, this student Sharon, she played the snare drum in her in like 5th and 6th grade, and now she's 65 and her husband just passed away. And she's like, I want to start playing drums again, dude. She shows up every week, stoked. She practices more than any of my other students, man. She shows up hyped. It gets me really excited, man. Because I see that it doesn't matter if you're 5 or you're 50, or you're 6 or 60. You get the same childlike aggravation when your mind knows what to do, but your body won't syncopate the right way, and they get frustrated. They get like that little kid face. I never get over it, man. It's so fun to see people get that breakthrough.
Was Revere a band that a lot of polyrhythms in the band?
It was like southern emo kind of rock. It was like
interesting.
It was like scene rock with a lot of big southern changes. Like we did the John Lennon Battle of the Bands every year at the Rialto, and like the first year we got second 2 years in a row, and then I think it was like third, second, and then we all graduated or something. But every year it was like, hey man, we're playing packed, sold out the Rialto because we're the top 5 bands in Tucson. It was awesome. It was great.
How did you learn to syncopate though? I think that's a great.
Fred, 100% Fred Hayes. Fred Hayes, he wasn't having it, man. And like he had this. If I showed up at night in practice, he just had this way about him to be like, hey man, it's not for me. Like this is for you, dude. So if you don't, if you're not gonna take this seriously, man, like I have other things to do. He would really make me show up and want to do it for myself and know that I'm never gonna be the best. Hey dude, there are dudes that want this more than you. So figure out how much you want this and start working. He was the best, man. He would just get me to work. I'd show up in a bad mood and be like, hey man, that's not what today's about, man. Pick up your sticks and play the drums, man. If you're in a bad mood, you'll get out of it. Let's play some drums.
Do you think, just talking to friends of ours that are gig musicians, and they, maybe do a lesson on the side here and there, but they're not in the studio like you are, with Regiment, and it's like a burn because in Tucson, you make $20,000 a year being a live musician.
If that, yeah.
All right, and it's like, if you have domestic things that you aspire to in life, it's just really hard to acquire anything.
Before I started doing lessons, I was making no money.
Well, no, my question is, though, because you're so infectious with the groove, how much do you wish that the significance of live music was such that the musicians would actually get compensated for the gig themselves?
It's the most devastating thing. Because
Fred Hayes has seen it go from
you're making
legitimate
3 gigs a day. You're making $250 each gig. You're going home with almost a rack. He'd have a morning gig, a brunch gig, and then he'd do a bar at night.
And the cost of living wasn't so crazy.
And so now, when I'm playing these cover bands, you'll go and you play 4 hours. You're playing 50 minutes, 10 minutes off, 10 to 10:50, 10-minute break.
Right.
11 to 11:50, 10-minute break. You're playing 10 to 2 a.m. and they pay the whole band, 5 members, $250. You split $250 between 5 people. So you're playing drums for 4 hours for $50, and they don't even give you a bar tab, bud. So you drink 2 Jamesons, you're going home with $28 for playing drums for 4 hours for a bar. And that's like, we were doing that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Hideout, over RJ Replays up at the, the Music Box up on Swan. It's like, they're just not, because the DJ shows up and he's like, I'll do it for $250. Just me.
Right. I mean, someone spinning knobs is not doing it.
It's not the same. It just doesn't bring the energy that it does.
And also just the idea of the unwillingness to.
They used to have $1,000 budget a night. They'd pay bands $1,000. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now it's like we'll give you $250.
Right, and so there's
5 of us.
Right. Well, that's
we perfected
beyond.
our craft.
It's not $400. It's $250.
Oh, and back when I was doing pre-pandemic, they were paying us $250.
What's your message to? I mean, just because I've done my show for 14 years.
Yeah, it's an amazing show. Yeah,
all right, and I just want to be clear. The
on.
only reason I do it is so that the musicians can be compensated as doctors.
Evaluate
because the doctors at one time, musicians were healers. Doctors today,
and we still are. We're just unpaid healers.
Well, what I'm saying is, what's your message to people that are confused, don't know how to necessarily give back to the arts, but they need to liberate through live? How important is the live musician in this modern era?
Not as important as it should be.
And why? Why should it be more important?
Because we all have to have day jobs to be able to provide what we're doing now.
I didn't know that. And what I'm saying is, what is the healing capacity of live music?
It's imminent. Drum circles physically heal people. Like it's not a gimmick. It's that these are actual fun.
No, it's a science.
Music is a science that actually heals and creates different pheromones, different feelings inside of you that actually change the way you feel and act every day. Like nothing can do what music does for people, and the fact that creating it is losing all of its value is so upsetting that you can just go into a software and just have AI finish your tracks now. You can have a bunch of half-finished tracks. You just go and say, "Hey AI, finish up these tracks," and it's pretty good. It'll do it pretty well too.
Right, and the problem is the terminology is changing where people think that is making music.
100%, and they're getting
younger
paid.
Generation, right?
And those dudes are getting paid like they're making the music.
That's right.
And then the dudes that are actually making the music, they're like, "Oh, but this dude does the same thing." It's like.
Austin Keys, man. When are you and Patrick Morris going to get on the bandstand together?
So I met Patrick.
Because that's like one of my favorite cats, man.
So I met Patrick playing with Mike Kuhn at the Pima improv band years ago. Yeah, and every time I've heard him, I'm like, he is the coldest player ever, man. Yeah, Pat.
Wait, it was a straight improv band? What do you mean?
Yeah. So Mike Kuhn, rest in peace, he was the man. He used to run the improv band out at Pima. So you'd show up, there'd be 4 or 5 drummers, and then a ton of horn players, piano players, and he'd have you try out, and however good you were, he'd put you into a different, beginning band, medium band, expert band, and then he'd give you a list of tracks, and you'd record at the end of it was awesome. It was a great, great class. And that was where I met Patrick. We played a lot of really, really great jams.
Are there other tapes around of that stuff?
No, I doubt it.
I mean, that is so hip.
It was so cool, man. Yeah, it definitely. I'm not sure if it's still going on, but if it is, people, the improv band at Pima was so much fun. We need to bring that back if that's not a thing anymore.
Well, Austin Keys, man, the pulse and the dynamics are real with you. Your mom's soul is here today, and I look forward to collaborating with you further, especially on the bandstand, be it at Hush. That's a good jam down
I
there.
definitely need to start stopping by a lot more on Sundays.
To me,
you're totally right.
That is where the healing for me is.
It was a great vibe last time. I was a little nervous. I showed up. I was like, I don't know anyone here right now, but yeah, totally had a great time.
It's family, dude.
Yeah, it is family. It seems like family over there, man.
Thank you for taking the time, bro.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, man.
It's the Jake Feinberg Show. See you later.